Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. And I bring you more good news. Yesterday was an absurdly good news show, and this is another keep it going for good news. Yeah. Jumping right into it. Look, a lot of this is going to build on some of the good news from yesterday. We had the peace deal over the weekend with India and Pakistan. We had the trade deal with China that's getting worked out. We had the last American hostage released from Gaza. We got a freebie presidential plane from some nice sheikh over in Qatar. We got the prescription drug executive order. We had Russia, Ukraine. They're still having talks and maybe working out a peace deal right now. And then today, on top of all that good news, inflation has cooled down to its lowest level in 4 years, which if you do the math, what was going on 4 years ago? That means inflation for April was lower than every single month under Joe Biden once you get past his first 3 months, except for the first 3 months that he inherited, from Trump. So inflation, it's still going up, just at a much slower pace, slower than any pace that you've seen since the first 3 months of Joe Biden's presidency. That's a pretty good deal. Now, I'm not saying you're going to go to the store and prices are going to go down. Do not mistake me. But at least we're losing ground at a slower pace than we have in the last 4 years. We also have Trump announced a $600 billion deal with Saudi Arabia. This is for energy. There's a bunch of defense contracts and weapons sold there. Something about mining and the arts. So that sounds pretty good. After opening up maybe, big markets in China, $600 billion deal with Saudi Arabia sounds like it's going to have some good effects on the economy. Some nice tailwinds there. And then the other big story today, Trump is allowing asylum for some South Africans who he labels it as a genocide. It's being argued against, but I am just totally adored by the coverage of this. I find it's so fun to watch because now all of a sudden MSNBC found an asylum they don't want to admit into the country. Now they'll go lock arms and protest at the illegal immigrant asylum seekers that are criminals in detention centers. They'll go all the way to El Salvador to try and get the gangbangers back. But we have some actual people who are being killed for the color of their skin. I mean, they fantasize about this. They see racism in a garage pull down for Bubba Wallace's door there, garage door. But they don't see racism here. Okay, that's fine. And also, stocks yesterday closed above where they were on April 5th before this whole tariff thing started. We're out of the hole. All three stock market indices are higher than they were when this whole thing started. Also, more fantastic news. There was a nationwide sting over the last 5 days. You think this would be bigger news, but I'm definitely highlighting it on the James Show today. 115 children were rescued from sex trafficking over the last 5 days. It's a big Department of Justice sting operation that has over 200 people arrested for sex crimes. And, this makes the clapback that we've been hearing for the last few months. Is this what you voted for? Is this what you voted for? Because, yeah, this all sounds pretty good to me. This is all fantastic news. I'm having a hard time finding bad news today. And I'll play an example here. The legacy news platforms, they're still trying to convince you that this is a hellish presidential term. Everyone hates Trump. He's super unpopular. Everyone hates everything he's doing. But considering all this good news, I know you don't buy that. Does the average person out there buy that anymore? So I'll give you the example here. This is, what's her name? Caitlin Collins on CNN talking to Greer, the guy who was actually in the room when the tariffs were being negotiated with China. And the question's adorable. Were the tariffs worth the pain?
If there were no major concessions made in Geneva by the Chinese officials, some businesses may ask, was this last month worth the pain that it caused?
All right.
So again,
he's going to give the wrong answer here. I'll give the right answer. Caitlin, there is no pain. We're richer than we were before this started. But all the pain that it caused, we're up. There is no pain. It's done. You might have had some people thinking, I might have to resource some of my inputs, but that's all done. There's no pain. So Anyway, I'll let him answer. He's just a lot more diplomatic than I am in his answer.
If there were no major concessions made in Geneva by the Chinese officials, some businesses may ask.
If there were no major concessions that were made by the Chinese. So you're admitting that there were concessions, you just don't consider them important. Oh, they're minor concessions, I guess. It's we're just not allowed to say anything nice about anything this guy does. Come on, Caitlin.
And if there were no major concessions made in Geneva by the Chinese officials, some businesses may ask, was this last month worth the pain that it caused?
So again, Caitlin, I would just point out it's the Chinese that really caused this pain. Every other country in the world, when we imposed tariffs, understood we're trying to deal with a $1.2 trillion trade deficit, the largest in human history that we inherited from the Biden administration. It was only China that decided to escalate, and therefore we had to escalate as well. And now we got to a position with the Chinese where we understand each other much better. They understand our problem. We understand their views, so we can get back to the normal program we're having with these other countries who are negotiating with us, which is to have a 10% baseline with the possibility of the tariffs going back up if we don't reach an agreement. So now they're just coming into the fold with the rest of the countries.
He's so nice. I mean, when we talk about loaded questions, I should remember this as one of the great examples of a loaded question. So there weren't any major concessions. There were concessions made for sure. Absolutely, there were concessions made. Their tariffs went from 125% to 10%. That's not a major concession. So just totally dishonest from the beginning. And then it supposes that we're all in pain from the tariffs and all the businesses are in pain. I'm sorry. There's probably more businesses that are super excited about Chinese markets opening up for them. There's probably more happy people with the tariff outcome. And really during the whole month-long process, everyone's going to look back on this, or not everyone, but most people are going to look back on this and think there was no pain there. That was great. The market kind of wigged out for a week and then bounce right back. So, yeah, it was totally worth it. Are you kidding me? And coming up next on The James Show, one of the top China experts, you've seen him on Fox News, Gordon Chang, is going to be on the show, and he's going to let you know if this China deal will work out and how it could change your economy next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Here to break down some of the new China news. You've seen him on Fox News Channel. Gordon Chang, an American lawyer, political analyst, conservative columnist, and one of the great China hawks that America has to offer. Gordon Chang, welcome back to the James Show. Such a good time to have you on.
Well, thank you so much, James.
All right. So, Gordon, before we jump into the China, I just saw on your Twitter feed at Gordon G. Chang that Trump is lifting Syria sanctions, and you said this is one of the great success stories of the last decade. Explain that real quick.
Yeah, Syria has a new president. He's a former militant, Mohammed el-Shara, and he wants to move his country into the American orbit. And he's not looking for American aid. He's looking for American business. He wants investment. He wants trade. He wants Americans to provide services. And the reason is he doesn't want the Chinese in his country. He might have to accept them if we don't go in. But with President Trump today saying that he's going to lift the old sanctions on Syria, this was when the Assad regime was in place. By doing that, Americans can come in and rebuild Syria. It's very interesting. He talked about America has had nation building. It's been successful. It was not successful in Iraq and Afghanistan. And Shara says it wasn't successful in Iraq and Afghanistan because American business did not come in and did not follow the American military. He's saying he wants to be Japan and Germany, where business did go in, transform those countries, and made them successful. He wants Syria to be successful.
All right, Gordon Chang, now let's look at China, your real area of expertise here. And the deal that's announced, it's a temporary deal, and we're supposed to have some stuff on paper in the next 90 days. But is there much of a likelihood that it could come back and tariffs could return if we don't get a deal in 90 days?
Well, certainly, because President Trump yesterday at the White House was saying that there was going to be a total reset of China. There's going to be open up for American business, and that China would remove the non-tariff barriers. Well, for that to happen, Xi Jinping has basically got to give up communism in China because his communist system is built on non-tariff barriers in keeping foreigners, especially Americans, out. Xi Jinping is building a wartime economy, and that means he does not want a restructuring of China as President Trump contemplates. So at the end of the 90 days, this is probably going to be a controversy, and it's going to look pretty ugly.
So I've seen in the reporting that there's a lot of industries and items that have exemptions on the tariff. Some still have high tariffs, some have the lower ones. How do we decide which ones got exempted or not? What's all that about, Gordon?
Well, President Trump said that steel and aluminum are really important for the United States. And so he was going to keep his 25% tariffs on. And they're still going to be in place with regard to China. When it came to electronics, Trump exempted from the additional tariffs electronics, iPads, iPhones, that type of thing. And that, I think, was because of political pressure. It also was, I think, very much part of the informal deal that Trump had with Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, because Tim Cook has said, first of all, he's moving his American production out of China to India and Vietnam, which is good for us.
Yay.
But Cook also started talking about investing in the United States and building plants here. So I think, I can't prove this, but it seems to me that there must have been some sort of informal arrangement between President Trump and Tim Cook.
We're talking with Gordon Chang, author, columnist, lawyer, China hawk. China has a poor record of actually following the rules of previous trade agreements. Is there some enforcement mechanisms to keep them in line this time?
Well, there were enforcement mechanisms in the Phase 1 trade deal of January 2020, but neither Presidents Trump nor Biden actually enforced them. So this was a failure on our part. But China has never complied with a trade deal. And we wouldn't be having these conversations if China actually complied with the terms of its accession to the World Trade Organization in 2001. So China always violates its trade deals, which is, of course, an issue of concern because President Trump is talking about a trade deal to fundamentally restructure China.
How close Sorry, how close was Xi Jinping to losing power and having his economy collapse?
Well, the Chinese economy is in distress. I think that it is in a deflationary spiral, which generally leads to a collapse. Xi Jinping, I think, is in political trouble. I'm in very much in a minority on this, but I think he's lost a lot of influence in the Chinese military, which is the most important faction in the Communist Party. And he's also having trouble with other civilian leaders. So I think he's walking on thin ice. This is going to be something we got to watch. People say, well, Xi Jinping can tough it out because he doesn't face elections. Well, he faces an election every morning. And I'm sure he's pretty happy when he wakes up every morning because that's the nature of the system. He could lose power at any moment.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people forget about dictators. You got to keep the generals happy. You've got to keep the billionaires happy. You've got to, there's other actual oligarchs. Oligarchy. We hear so much about that from a recent tour of our friends. That Xi Jinping is not indestructible over there. So I was kind of interested to see how long the Chinese economy could hold their breath. Now, if I turn it on Fox News today, Gordon Chang, they're going to say Trump wins. He got China to cave. I turn on MSNBC. They say Trump caved to China. And that's too reductive. I'm sure the truth is somewhere in the middle. Who's closer to the truth on that one?
Well, when you look at the deal, China came out better. But I don't think that he caved. I think what happened is Trump realized he held the high cards. He didn't give in because of empty shelves or inflation concerns. I think that he was really worried about what was going to happen in the Chinese economy. He let them off the hook, see if they will come to terms in 90 days with the promises that they made in Geneva, and we'll see what happens. So, yes, China got the better of the deal, but it wasn't because Trump really caved. It was because he felt that that was in the best long-term interest of both China and the United States. That's a guess, but it seems to me when you look at the objective factors, that was what was motivating Trump to give the Chinese a very generous arrangement.
All right, well, good stuff. Thanks for squeezing in some time for us today, Gordon Chang. I see you're going to be on about 18 other shows today.
Well, thank you so much, James. I really appreciate being on your show.
All right. And he's a great follow on Twitter. Go check him out, Gordon G. Chang, at Gordon G. Chang, if you want to follow him there. Coming up next on The James Show, 115 children were rescued in a week-long sting operation. Find out where here in North Texas some of the 200-plus suspects were arrested. That's coming up next on The James Show with me, James Parker, on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. I would think this would be a bigger news story. This is huge from my point of view. North Texans arrested as part of a nationwide crackdown to catch child sex abuse offenders. Well, that's the headline on WFAA. You go dig into it, and I didn't know this was going on, but over the last couple of weeks here, in the course of 5 days, the Department of Justice said more than 200 child abuse offenders nationwide have been arrested, and 115 children were rescued in the operation. Yikes. So this was a big nationwide effort. All 55 FBI field offices and a few other departments were thrown in there collaborating with the United States Attorney's Office. But I don't know. Am I naive? Because I feel naive. I don't like to think about this. I don't like to comprehend. I have a hard time comprehending how big this problem is. I don't like to think that you share this society with a bunch of monsters like that. But being a parent of minor children, I feel like I kind of have to confront that. You have kids. If your kids are grown, you have grandkids. Yeah, you kind of don't want to put your head in the sand, but just what an ugly, terrible thing to have to even think about. You have a little bit amount of time every day where you get to think about things, and you try and focus on the good or the productive, and this is just terrible to know. But hey, at least 200 plus of them are now arrested. And just to think, a couple weeks ago, there were 115 children that were in sex trafficking that are not now. Now, this wasn't a Texas operation. This was nationwide, but WFAA did a little digging, and they pulled out some people with North Texas ties who were arrested and charged in this operation. There was a guy from La Mesa. He is transferring obscene material to minors. That's weird. There's a Michael in Fort Worth. His laptop was logged into the platforms used to view sexually explicit images of minors. We have a guy in Azle. We have a guy in Rockwall. We have a couple guys in Dallas. There was also another guy in Benbrook. And a lot of these guys are facing it looks like the normal punishment for the crimes that are thrown out here, mostly around child pornography. 5 to 20 years in federal prison if convicted. That's a problem. You mean these guys might get out in 5 years even if they're convicted? The recidivism rate for these guys is off the charts. It's a compulsion. They can't stop it. Their brain is broken. And I don't know any good stories about people who are, what's it called? Rehabilitated child sex offenders. You have people who used to be on crack and they can get rehabilitated. Have people who used to be addicted to gambling and they can get rehabilitated. People who used to be car thieves and they did their time in prison, and when they got out, they turned over a new leaf and they're on the straight and narrow. You hear that a lot from, some preachers have a great testimony and backstory about how they used to be this way and have this terrible pattern of behavior, but they got fixed. I don't have any of those stories. Is there any stories like that about these guys who have been fixed? I don't think so. And if that's the case, why would we let them out in 5 years? So I'm glad they got picked up. First, round of applause for Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. This is what we want the FBI doing. We don't want them setting up a bunch of yokels, a handful of yokels, to pretend like they're going to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, the old governor of Michigan. We don't need them embedded in the crowd during January 6th. We're going to storm the Capitol. Those guys. It's not what the FBI should do. The FBI shouldn't be doing Fast and Furious, where they trick gun merchants in Texas and then run it to the Mexican cartels in order to slander and slime the good name of gun merchants. We don't need them doing that. We need them doing this. We need them doing this, and apparently we need them doing counterfeit around here. There was a sign, just on a quick aside, there was a sign at the Jimmy John's today where they're not taking any bills larger than a 50 because of counterfeiting. I'm like, is there really a big problem with that? And they said one day last week they got 2 fake $100 bills on the same day. We need you on that. We need you on that stuff. This is fantastic. It's great news. So 200 plus monsters headed to the wood chipper. If I had my druthers, 5 to 20 years, no, they need to go to the old wood chipper. Coming up next, Donald Trump signed an executive order to cut prescription drug prices by 30 to 80%, whatever it takes to match other countries. Will it work? You'll hear from an expert on healthcare costs, Dr. Bill Hennessy, next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. You're listening to News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. My next guest is a guy I thought of first when the executive order from Trump talked about prescription drug prices, Bill Hennessy, back on the James Show. And this is what he does during the week. He works at Care Guide and helps people manage their healthcare costs and maybe get their bills down. And my first question for you, welcome back, Dr. Bill, is will this work?
It's finally going to work. I know you don't want to believe me because your drug costs and medical care costs have gone up from the time you were born till now. But we have a president who's not a career politician who implemented an executive order that is a directive to the federal agencies, including Health and Human Services by Robert F. Kennedy, FDA, the Food and Drug Administration by Dr. Marty Makary, and they are now empowered to create rules for getting these new drugs, and the FDA will help source them from other countries to get them into the United States safely and for a heck of a lot less than we're paying for them here.
So let's talk about why do countries get different prices to begin with? Because it feels like that, you know, if Mexico is selling it for 1/10 the cost, can't we just go to Mexico and buy it or order it online from Mexico? And I have to assume that there's some sort of trade barrier from re-importing drugs.
There is, and that it falls under the FDA, Food and Drug Administration. The middle letter D.
Yeah.
D stands there. So you have to understand what's happened in the past. There's over 3,000 healthcare lobbyists. And if you're a drug lobbyist, you got lots of money.
That sounds wild because when you add up the House and Senate, 535 people, and you said 3,000 lobbyists?
Yes. Yeah, each one of them gets 6. Isn't that great?
Is that just in D.C. or is that spread out through the state legislatures as well, that 3,000 number?
That's spread out through the states too. But it's an awful lot. If we look at the American Hospital Association, over 20 million lobbied a year. The insurance industry, over 100 million lobbied a year. I don't have the stat offhand on the big pharma drug industry, but it's lots of millions also. So they've basically had their hand in the cookie jar in the federal government, but not this time. And the excuse given by the FDA is, well, we know you big drug companies get drug ingredients from around the world, and some of you even produce drugs in other countries, but because we're paid off by lobbyists, we're going to wink, wink, say that drugs from other countries aren't safe to put back into the United States. Really what it is it's illegal price fixing to make us pay $1,000 a dose when it's available in Canada or Europe for $100 a dose.
Yeah, and it's been one of these rackets that everyone has recognized. Like, clearly they're just jacking up the price as much as they want because they can get away with it. And so, I don't know. I think a lot of us just assumed that the going paradigm would never change.
Yeah, I completely understand the sentiment. But also know legally there is no law on the books that prevents what President Trump is saying. There's no law that says we can't get drugs from other country. It was just the FDA blocking it from how the administration worked. And I say worked when it really didn't work, whether it's under Republican or Democratic control in past years or decades. In addition, one more key thing here. Both the Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission have sued the 3 big pharmacy benefit management companies, and the Department of Justice has sued the drug manufacturers all over illegal drug price fixing. So I've never seen this in my lifetime where lobbyists have not been able to buy off and get their way. We have 2 extremely powerful, large federal agencies suing for illegal drug price fixing. Well, at the same time, President Trump saying, we're not waiting for that to resolve. We're going to make care affordable now by let's get it from anywhere in the world. That's called capitalism.
Yay. Everyone likes that. Studio audience. Oh, yeah. They're big fans of capitalism. I asked them yesterday, too. So, Dr. Bill Hennessy, in the meantime, prescription drugs may go down in the future. What can people who are dealing with high health care costs do in the meantime?
Well, you always have at least 2 prices, right? You could get a cash price or you can get your insurance price. 80% of working America does not meet its high deductible, and most of them are better off paying a cash price. It's work. It's work to call up, get first name, last name, title, and tell me what my price is. But go ahead and do it. It'll be worth it. If you don't want to do it, that's what my company Care Guide does. We'll do the work for you. I will tell you, the drugs, sometimes they will tell you, well, we can't, until we run your Aetna card. Remember, Aetna is owned by CVS, a drug company. Talk about a strong financial conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't tell you till you get to the counter. So there's been times where I've called in a drug for my family, and we get to the counter. I don't like the price. Keep it. So if they're going to play hardball, I got to play hardball. So get the cash price first, insurance price second. If you like it, take it. If you don't like the price, walk away. Go someplace else.
All right. Well, I hope we get these cheaper prescription drugs soon. In the meantime, you can take advantage of some Dr. Bill Hennessy's work at cgasaves.com. You're called Care Guide, and your website CGA Saves. What's the A?
Advocates.
Okay.
We do all the work, so you don't have to.
All right. cgasaves.com. Thanks again, Dr. Bill.
Thank you.
All right. More good news. We've got a lot of it today. Coming up next, a bunch of clergy got arrested for blocking the same ICE detention center in New Jersey where the congressman had a hissy fit on Friday. So next, you'll hear why I think these people, while well-intentioned, might have brain damage. That's coming up on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, homeowners, we need to have a chat here. Storm season is not over. I know we're not going to get a whole lot of rain this week, but there's other things that are kind of fishy out there that you need to get Blue Ribbon Roofing on your side to deal with it. I was talking with John earlier today, John, Tish, and Trevor, the family that runs Blue Ribbon Roofing, and he said some people are using under quality material when it comes out of the factory. If there's something wrong with it, a flaw in the mixture, or didn't get pressed correctly, there's like factory seconds, and they're supposed to throw those out. But some people, I don't know if a company's doing this on purpose or it could be a rogue employee, they turn around and they sell the subpar material to contractors who then charge you full price, but then it doesn't have a warranty coverage on it on top of that. So how do you recognize second tier materials, building materials? You don't. You're not an expert. But John can tell by looking. He's like, yeah, I saw a guy doing it one time, and I could tell by the wrapping on it that was not supposed to be sold to the public. So John knows. That's another reason when you find someone that you can trust, it makes all the difference in the world. You go out there and you get any old roofing company from a sign in the median of the road, you run the risk of not having a company to come back and take care of things if something goes wrong, of using subpar material, of using subpar crews, of all kinds of problems. You just don't have to worry about it. Go to blueribbondfw.com, read some of their 5-star Google reviews, and then give them a call and get your free inspection. Yeah, that's right. If you suspect anything's wrong, the inspection is free. So go to blueribbondfw.com. Hello, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, Newstalk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. So there was the detention facility for ICE up in New Jersey where on Friday, congressman and the mayor of Newark went to this detention facility to protest. And they were saying, well, this is part of my constitutional oversight duties. You have to let me in now. I demand to inspect the prison. They're like, well, it doesn't really work like that. We don't just open the gates and let you in and let you start sniffing around. We can set up a tour for you, but, you know, I have to talk with the boss and get that scheduled. They're like, no, we demand to be let in now. And so when they waited for the gate to open up for a busload of new criminal illegal immigrants, a bunch of them tried to walk in there. Some of them got through, and the mayor ended up getting arrested. Well, there was more fun to be had at the ICE detention facility. Same one, Delaney Hall, yesterday had a group of what was described as clergy members. And they went out. They didn't just protest and hold up signs or chant. I mean, they did hold up signs and chant and sing songs, but they also, around 50 of them is what it looked like. They're from a group called Faith in New Jersey and Faith in Action. They linked arms, kind of like when you're playing Red Rover. They linked elbows there outside the main gate of Delaney Hall and were trying to prevent people from coming in or out of that gate. And it didn't work very long because they also said, we volunteer to be arrested. And so they got their wish. They got arrested. All right. I don't mind if your preacher says a prayer for it, for the inmates in the facility. I don't care if, there's some part of your heart that has empathy for criminals or whatnot, but this really rubs me the wrong way. Because let's put it in some different context. Did any of these so-called clergy ever lock arms and protest at any detention center for any American ever? Did they lock arms and sing songs for the January 6ers that sat in solitary confinement for over a year, some of whom didn't have their due process either? They didn't have their full complement of hearings. They didn't have bonds. And no concern about due process there? No concern that, and we're talking about criminal, non-American, illegal aliens. They have concern for them, but not American citizens, some of whose worst crime is walking through an unlocked door, looking around and walking out. No, they didn't care about that. Did they lock arms and sing songs when the government violated your rights without due process during COVID lockdowns? Did they protest when their own churches were closed by the government? Did they protest when their own congregation wasn't allowed their freedom of religion without due process? You weren't allowed to go to church under COVID. I wasn't either. Our kids weren't allowed to go to school. Did you get a hearing for that? Did you get served some papers? Did you get any kind of due process for that? No. Yet they're concerned about criminal, illegal aliens, non-Americans who have no business being here in the first place. And you're going to go lock arms and get arrested on their behalf? What is with these people? Because if that was my pastor, I'd get a new church. If I had a pastor who was more concerned with the well-being of non-American illegal immigrant criminals than his own church, I would have a problem with that. In fact, I would say if you are one of these pastors, stop what you're doing right now, go to the nearest hospital and get checked out for brain damage. They have CAT scans. They don't cost a whole lot. They have ViaScan, or what's the one that Carla talks about on the morning show with the wellness scans? We have sponsors on WBAP that can handle that for you because something is wrong with your head. So a lot of you, this might hit a little closer to home because if you've ever been to prison or had a family member go to prison, I remember when my uncle went to prison. I say it's my uncle. He's my age. He's pretty much a cousin, but I just have a weird family. That'll be a different show. But I remember when Joey went to jail, when he went to prison for a couple of years, no congressman ever intervened. No mayor went out and tried to intervene. No protesters showed up. No pastors showed up. No one locked arms. No one cared when your family member went to prison, but they care when these guys go to prison and may get deported back to their home. And here's where it really rubs me the wrong way from sort of a religious standpoint. You know, I'm a Christian. I just don't throw it on everybody. But right here, this should bother you if you share the faith. Because did this clergy's action actually help any of the illegal aliens? Did it help any of the criminals? Well, why did they do it? Did it help their congregation? Did it help bring glory to the Lord? Or, here's the tough question, did it bring a lot of attention and notoriety to the clergy themselves? So if you're doing something that brings you a bunch of attention, that brings you a bunch of praise and positive glowing news coverage, but doesn't help your supposed victims or your congregation or any actual law-abiding Christians out there, that's wrong. You're not a very good man of the cloth. You're terrible clergy. You should quit your job and go into PR, because now you're using the Lord's name in vain. Now you're going out there and you're using your status to bring glory to yourself, not to God, not to Jesus, not your congregation. Not even, you didn't even help the illegal aliens in there. You just helped yourself. And the Bible's pretty explicit on that. That's wrong. You're one of the Pharisees. You're one of the bad ones. You're not one of the people who trust in Jesus. You're one of the people who had him put to death because he was a threat to your glory and your power. Pretty evil stuff. They're going to get praised on MSNBC and CNN and half the local platforms around here that you're going to see. And there's going to be all kinds of people on social media that say nice things about them. I can't. I think that's pretty damn close to evil, actually. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Would your pastor do this? And if your pastor did do this, would you have a chat with him, or would you start looking at new churches? Let's talk about that. And then after that, this other mind-blowing report I saw that most luxury goods, 75%, are bought by the poor and middle class. Why do people buy Gucci when they know they shouldn't? They know they can't afford it. You'll hear my theory coming up on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. You're listening to News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Report came out that just warmed my heart. 75% of luxury goods are bought by the middle and lower class. Now, on one hand, it kind of drives me nuts, but on the other hand, it's confirmed something that you have kind of assumed to be true this entire time, because this comes on the heels of when there was the tariff convulsions happening in April. There was some Chinese manufacturers who let it be known to the world. Oh, yeah, well, you don't like us sewing together your cheap stuff or your expensive stuff. It's the same stuff. And they confirmed that when I go buy some slides, you know, like the flip-flops, but they just have the one big hump over the middle, not quite like a flip-flop. You just slide them on and off. When I go get Adidas slides, I'm paying $30 for something that costs about 75 cents to make. When you go buy Gucci slides, you're paying $400 for something that costs about 75 cents to make. It's the same material, same glue, same factory, same workers. It's all just a needless upcharge. It's not made from better material. It's not like, well, we use the real glue on the Gucci slides and we skimp on what, the Adidas slides? But this confirms something that you thought, that what a ridiculous status symbol, because that's what you're paying for. You know, that Fendi bag is not going to last 10 times longer just because it costs 10 times more. It's not made out of super leather and everyone else is getting cheap vinyl. It's the same crap from the same factories as the regular brands. You're just paying for the status, and you're overpaying, and you're a dupe, and you're wearing what you think makes you look like a rich person. But rich people don't dress like that. 75% of that is worn by the middle and lower class. The overwhelming majority of people in a Gucci t-shirt right now can't afford it. Oh, I love this. God, this makes me so happy to know that all you people out there running around with, because some of the shirts don't even look good. I know some people buy the shirt just because it says Gucci real big on it. It's not fashionable. It's not cool. It doesn't match what you're wearing. It's not even a real thoughtful design. It's just a logo. You're just, what, a billboard for a luxury company that is taking advantage of you? And what, your insecurity about your status in society? Is that why you buy? Why do people buy this? It's just for the status symbol. It's the strangest thing. It's a cultural phenomenon that I am not familiar with. And this isn't as big of a deal like when you get out in bug tussle, when you're out in the country. People aren't running around wearing Gucci t-shirts. People aren't running around wearing brand new starched jeans that are intentionally made to look distressed. You know how you buy the jeans that are already tore up? We don't do that in the country. Why? Because they're going to get tore up for real. And you're not going to spend $104 on a t-shirt because it's going to get stains on it. It's going to get mud on it. You're going to ruin it. In fact, there's a complete opposite end of the spectrum from this. And culturally speaking, like the rural people out there, they like it when stuff is worn in. They think that looks cool. And they like brands too, but they don't like to overpay for brands. Like I'm wearing a Wrangler shirt that I think I got this shirt at Walmart. And I'm not ashamed to say that. If I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know. I get more compliments on Walmart clothes than I do non-Walmart clothes. Every once in a while, like, you probably like going to thrift shops, right? Isn't that cool? When you get something that's vintage, that looks like it's worn in, that something looks like it has a little wear on it. Do these luxury brand owners look at us and think we're trashy because we're not wearing expensive, new, shiny stuff that still has the tags on it or still has the stickers on it? You know, they leave the sticker on their hat. What is that? They want you to know, I just spent money. I have money to throw around on brand new hats that I just bought today. I haven't even had time to take the sticker off. It's so new. What's with these people? What is going on in your head? Because the big news I hope that these people are hearing is that luxury brands doesn't mean you dress like a rich person. It means you want to show off. It means you want people to think that you are wealthy. But what I see, and what you've probably suspected too, it really just shows you are not good when it comes to financial acuity. Your financial decisions are falling a little short here. You just spent $400 on a pair of Gucci slides that don't perform better than any other slides. They just have the green stripe. And now everyone knows I'm wearing Gucci and I'm so fancy and I'm so cool and my clothes are more expensive than yours. You wouldn't understand. So when you see someone wearing Gucci, Louis, Fendi, Prada, are you impressed? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Because I think people that buy this think that you're impressed by this. If they think it's a status symbol, wouldn't they like show up with their big Gucci shirt on and they think, oh, everyone around must think I'm awesome and I have a bunch of money and status because I'm wearing super expensive clothes. Are you impressed by that? Because I'm not. Never have been. I actually know a handful of people who are genuinely rich. And I mean rich. Like they have like 8 businesses and they have private planes and millions of dollars in the bank and they do all kinds of dumb stuff. And they damn sure don't wear $400 Gucci slides. And they don't wear a shirt. They might have some expensive clothes, but it doesn't have like the name brand written across the chest. They don't do that. One of my friends that's a millionaire, he keeps wearing the same stupid hoodie that he got at the Rolling Stones concert. What was that, 2 years ago? Remember when the Stones were here? He went to that, and then he went to the one in Austin because he could take his private plane. And he came back with a sweatshirt on, and he keeps wearing it. Why? Oh, I like this shirt. It's comfortable. And it reminds me, a good time I had. It's sort of like a little souvenir. I'm like, you look like the poorest guy in the group, and you're the millionaire out of us. Like if we were Gilligan's Island, he would be the millionaire. Rich people don't dress like this. You're virtue signaling for who? I feel like this is like the guys that have the really loud cars with the bass, and they pull up next to you at the line. It's like boom, 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 boom. And everyone's just like annoyed. Like, oh, you're so annoying. He's probably thinking, oh, I'm cool as hell. Everyone's probably jealous that I've got 18s with a big Alpine amp pushing it. They probably think I'm super cool. Like the guys with the really loud motorcycles. Like, get a muffler, bro. No one thinks that's awesome. We're all annoyed by it. But why do they do that? They run around annoying people? No, I think that they think this makes them look cool. When you see someone in Gucci, are you impressed? When you see someone in Prada, are you impressed? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. This is News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. When you see someone wearing luxury goods, Gucci, Louis, Fendi, Prada, are you impressed? You think they look cool? Do you see them and you think, ooh, you must have a lot of money. You must be really successful. I am so jealous, or I think so highly of you. Not really. And a new report confirms your suspicions. 75% of luxury goods are sold to people who are in the middle and lower classes, which means, bro, you can't afford them. You're cosplaying as a rich person, or this is what poor people, I guess, think rich people dress like, because they don't. But the reaction here is just hilarious, because I also have to try and get in their mindset. Who do you think you're impressing? Are there, I guess you think other shallow people out there will see you and be like, oh yeah, I'm into that whole Gucci thing and you're a cool person like me? I don't get it. I'm not impressed at all. I think few people are, but someone has to be. The guy wearing it probably thinks that's impressive. He must think I look like a bum. I'm wearing jeans and a Walmart shirt right now. Are you impressed? I doubt it. This is Samantha in Dallas. If you want to be after Samantha, 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Samantha in Dallas, are you impressed when people are wearing Gucci slides?
No. I don't even know what they look like. They must be hideous.
Why would you think they're hideous? No. Gucci slides just have the Gucci. Do you even know what the Gucci stripes are?
I do.
Okay,
I
so the
have
green,
some
red,
at
green.
home.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it depends on what you're buying as to whether it should be brand or not. Like, you're not going to buy a Fiat, you're going to buy a Toyota, right? So, I think it does matter to some extent. Hopefully, the quality is better, but I can tell you that the richest guys that I've ever dated, they always drive like a Prius or like just an average vehicle. They don't try to impress anybody. They're low key. I like that. I think that matters.
Well, I don't think that's a good argument there as far as it's better quality, because the Chinese factories told us that it's the same stuff from the same factories. But even if it is like a better material or better stitching or whatever, instead of getting a $20 t-shirt, you get a $200 t-shirt. It's not 10 times better. It's not going to last 10 times longer.
Some things do, yeah. I mean, you can't say that everything is cheap junk from China. I mean, there's a lot of brands that do sell quality. You know, that's what they're known for. I think there's a lot of companies that sell good quality, and they're worth that investment. It depends on how you're using it, or I'm frugal myself. I don't really care about all that stuff, but it depends on what, you know, like I don't want.
So you're sort of defending these guys.
I'm sort of defending a valued investment.
Oh, it's not a valued investment. You own how much luxury stuff do you own? Quite a bit. Have you?
Almost none. No, I'm not. I hate shopping with a passion. I hate it.
Okay. But I feel like this is similar to the diamond industry. You know, okay, a diamond shiny, but it's not worth $18,000 for that tiny little shiny thing. And it's not. It's really not even about the shiny. It's about the status. That's what you're buying with the diamond. You're buying this. You just want people to see it on you and be impressed. Ooh, you must have spent a whole lot of money on that piece of jewelry. And I know it's not even about the jewel itself or the shininess or whatever, because we now have lab-grown diamonds. You know, the cubic zirconium that are perfect diamonds. They're better than the ones that are found in nature. They're shinier. They cut better, and they're like 10 times cheaper. But people are still buying the natural diamonds. I don't know. I guess suffering was part of the fun. You know, I guess that's part of the status symbol is you overpay for it. It's just a mindset that escapes me. So I don't know. It makes me feel a little better that a regular caller doesn't think it's that crazy, because I think you're out of your mind. And thank you very much, Samantha in Dallas. I'm reminded of the Palessi stunt. Are you familiar with the Palessi stunt? Payless went to is like the Galleria in Los Angeles. It's a place that just has super expensive stores, like a Gucci, a Louis, a Fendi, a Prada. And then they opened up a store. They called it Palessi because it sounds like Italian and sounds like a fashion brand to me. But obviously, play on the word Payless. They spelled it way different. And then they invited a whole bunch of influencers and fashion critics and magazine writers and people who know such things to come check out the grand opening of this new luxury shoe store called Palessi. I have a report for you. Hang on.
Behold, Palessi.
We built a fake luxury store in Los Angeles and filled it with Payless shoes. The guests at our grand opening party had no idea.
Guests invited to check out what looked like a luxury shoe shop.
They're elegant, sophisticated.
I just think it's so classy.
And I could tell it was made with high quality material.
A $35 shoe going for $645, an 1,800% markup. Store owners sat on their heels as fashion influencers emptied their wallets.
I would pay $400, $500. Yeah, people are gonna be like, where'd you get those? Those are amazing.
Then they're let in on the prank.
These are actually from Payless.
You've got to be kidding me.
Shut up. Are you serious?
Yes, I can tell. This is fine material. This is high quality stuff. This isn't like the cheap crap you would find at Payless. It's all for show. It's all a weird status symbol, and you're overpaying. 800-288-9227. I don't have time for one more. No. Can these guys wait? I want to take some of these calls. Can we push back the next guest and continue? I have a couple of good callers that I think you're going to like to hear. 75% of luxury goods bought by the middle and lower class. Are you impressed? 800-288-9227. More on this next. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome to the James Show. I'm your host, James Parker, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. I'm kind of giggling at a report that shows 75% of luxury goods are bought by the middle and lower class, also known as people who can't afford it. And if it's that big of an industry, though, am I in the minority on this one? I don't think less of you. I don't think you look silly wearing Gucci. I certainly don't feel the need to have people see me in luxury clothing so bad that I'm willing to spend $400 on an outfit. I'm just $300 for a pair of shoes. No, it's not something I participate in. And culturally speaking, I like going to thrift shops. I like wearing Walmart clothes, and there's a noticeable delineation between like Kanye West when he gripes about being addicted to retail. Remember in All Falls Down? You don't know Kanye, do you? That's okay. But he laments the fact that he spends so much money keeping up with fashion, and so many other people do, when it's not really important. Then on the other side, you have Florida Georgia Line saying, "May we all know that nothing ain't cool till you wear the new off." And so, like, which one are you? Are you into this luxury stuff, or do you like old, worn out jeans? And because these are oil and water, they do not mix. And do these people, when they look at me, do they like, "Oh man, look at his clothes"? Why do you dress poor? Like in Inventing Anna, you look poor. 800-288-9227. This is Lakota and Denison. You're on the James Show. What do you think?
Honestly, I think that it's rather foolish, because those people that are actually wealthy or trying to retain their wealth, they're looking at the return of investment. Why spend $300 on a set of clothes that can easily be subbed for something that only costs $60?
Well, I like that approach, because when you talk about return on investment, they feel like everyone who goes out and exchanges their money feels like they're getting a good return on their investment. So for them, being seen in Gucci is so important. They're willing to overpay by hundreds of dollars for a shirt or for some pants or for a belt. Status is so important. Clothing is so important to these people. It tells you that this is what they think is a good return on investment. They think that is so cool.
Well, they need to keep in mind that it's utility and comfort. That is what is important.
Well, if that was the deal, we'd all be wearing Dickies and Carhartt all day. A lot of this is based on looks. And look, there is a return on investment by dressing nice. You look better for your job interview, or if you're, trying to.
Having only one outfit that is maybe like that is okay. Having your whole entire wardrobe be nothing but that is not. That is unsustainable.
Okay, but if there's a female version of this and a male version of this, and they meet each other in a bar or a birthday party or church for that matter, I think this is like a connection for them. Like, oh, you think this is super important and high status like me? Oh, maybe we should get together. Maybe it's like a mating ritual. Like, this is just part of the very expensive plumage, and this is all about finding a mate. There's like an evolutionary explanation for this, Lakota, because it damn sure doesn't make sense from an economic standpoint. But I like your return on investment thought process. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Ellis, Fort Worth, you're next up on the James Show. What do you think?
I think it's a waste of money. I mean, you can go to the flea market. Me and my wife go every weekend, and I see all of that stuff. You get you a Gucci T-shirt for about $20 there.
What are you going to, like First Mondays in Canton?
Like First Monday. Yeah.
Does everybody know what, Garrett, you're from like Fort Worth. Do you know what First Mondays is, or is that just an East Texas thing? You're not sure? You don't. It's literally the biggest flea market on planet Earth. It happens one weekend a month out in Canton. You don't know about that? No, hey, fair. That's why I asked. I can't assume everyone knows about our East Texas quirks out there. But for those of you who really think this is important, Ellis is giving you one of the great cheat codes. You do go out to Canton, and of course it's a knockoff. Of course it's not real. But you'll find Gucci, Louis, Fendi, Prada out there at tables for like $4 a shirt. You don't have to go into lifelong severe debt to look like you're styling. Let's see here. Sticking with the phones. Oh, look, speaking of Canton, Brian in Canton. I bet you know about First Mondays.
I do, and I refuse to shop there.
Yeah, because you're a local. It's the worst thing. Just like I am like 4 blocks away from Dealey Plaza. I never go down there. What do I need to go see the book depository for? What do you think about people wearing these super expensive clothes, though?
Well, my wife and I, we have a resale shop in a different city, and we sell that stuff, but we refuse to wear it.
Beautiful. That just warms my capitalist heart, sir.
Yes, and we make more money on designer purses reselling them than we do anything.
Man, purses are a thing, aren't they? And Miss Parker wants a nice purse too, you know. So it's not just craziness. It's a weird status symbol. I'm glad men don't wear purses because that'd probably get out of hand too. John, Fort Worth, you're going to be the last caller on this topic. Make it good.
Yes, sir. Hey, I'm into boots. I like good boots, and I'm older, so my feet ain't as tough as they used to be. I've got into Lucchese boots, but I don't buy them new. They're like $2,000 a plus. I get them off eBay. I find them slightly used. You wouldn't believe it for, I do pay like $200, $300 for an alligator, or hell, I bought a pair of blackjack ostrich, beautiful boots, but they're comfortable. They're really comfortable and well made.
Yeah, you know what? That's the same mindset Miss Parker had when she wanted to get some Louis red bottoms. They're like $1,800 or $800 new.
Buy that stuff.
But she found a resale website where you can get some red bottoms that some rich lady wore just one time to impress some friends at some event.
There's a whole culture in Lucchese boots. I mean, you wouldn't believe it, but you can find. I mean, they'll sell them to you for whatever you want to pay, but you can dicker with them. I mean, I've got some nice boots, and they're comfortable. I've been wearing cowboy boots my whole life. At work, I wear Red Wings. But, I mean, I don't know. I think I get my money's worth out of good used ones. If I don't buy 4 pairs wore out, but if you look hard enough, you can find what you want.
Yep, solid advice. Love it. Good ending there, John in Fort Worth. Round of applause. Yeah, and when it comes to that stuff, like if it's too expensive to be in Cavender's, then it's too expensive for me. Coming up next, a report shows real estate struggling nationally, but I thought it was doing pretty good here in North Texas. We'll find out from a Bankrate analyst next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hello, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. So we have a new report here with concerns about the housing market. Housing markets like Tampa and Austin have seen a recent slowdown. There are some neighborhoods that are actually seeing prices fall as a result, but I was under the impression things were going great here in the North Texas housing market. Well, let's ask Jeff Ostrowski. He's a Bankrate housing market analyst. And look, I know all real estate is local, but compared to the rest of the country, I think we're doing pretty good here in North Texas.
Yeah, well, it's intriguing. A lot of the formerly hot markets in Texas and in Florida have really softened a lot. So I'm just looking at some numbers here. So Dallas-Fort Worth prices flat from first quarter of 2024 to 2025. Austin was down a little. San Antonio, I know not North Texas, but down more. Abilene actually was one of the weakest markets in the country, down 5% over the past year.
Whoa, people still live there?
Kind of a mixed bag. But yeah, definitely some softening in the Sunbelt states that had been doing well during the pandemic. And then surprisingly enough, a lot of the Midwestern and Northeastern markets that had been sort of languishing are now doing well. They're seeing prices rise.
Well, I love breaking stories like this down, Jeff, because home prices going down is real good for people who are trying to get into home ownership and not so good for people who are already in home ownership. So I kind of have a divided loyalty here in my audience. Do I want you to have a cheaper house, or do I want you to sell your house for more whenever you get rid of it?
Yeah, well, and that's always the conundrum. About 2/3 of Americans own their homes, so I guess it's good for them when the value goes up. But then the question is, okay, what do I do with that value? If I sell my house, I'm going to have to go find a different place to live. So I would say that this is probably good news for the overall economy. Just the fact that these superheated home prices that we've been experiencing for the past few years are cooling down. I mean, yeah, it's great if you're a realtor, if you're a home builder, or if you're a homeowner and you can manage to sell and move to a less expensive place. But in general, it just kind of complicates an economy when home prices shoot up like they have over the past 5 years. So I think maybe the market taking a breather is going to be a good thing overall.
Well, the economic foundation behind some of these numbers is often just plain old supply and demand. So in the places where it's falling, is it because there's less demand there, or is there a new burst of home construction?
It's the latter for sure, and I think you cheated. You looked at the answers before you asked that question. It's definitely like in you mentioned a couple of markets, Austin and Sarasota, Bradenton, Florida. Those two markets have some of the highest paces of home construction based on population in the country, and so it sort of makes sense that. In Austin, you've seen home prices soften. In parts of Florida, you've seen home prices fall. And that's just because there's a lot of new supply coming online. But again, that as you mentioned, these numbers are always a double-edged sword. So the U.S. housing market has been chronically short of supply. So it's really not a bad thing that these markets are softening. I mean, that their prices are soft because they're getting what everyone wants, which is more housing, more construction.
We're talking with Jeff Ostrowski from Bankrate about the price of housing going down in some places, still kind of going up for us. But you said we were pretty much flat for the year.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I mean, home prices are so localized. It just really depends on the neighborhood. It depends on the zip code. It depends on the condition of the house. So I'm looking at the latest National Association of Realtors quarterly numbers. They're showing a 0.1% increase in median sale price in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area, so just under $378,000 in the first quarter of this year. So essentially unchanged from last year. And then, you look at some place like Abilene, where prices are down 5% over the past year. And I mentioned there are some markets in the Midwest where prices are still rising, like Topeka, Kansas, up 20%. Peoria,
Wow.
Illinois, up 18%. And that's the opposite condition, opposite market condition of what we were just describing. There's very little new construction in those places because there's just not the job growth. There's not the in-migration to support it. And so the big builders are really looking at in-migration. They're looking at population trends. And so they're building in places like Texas and Florida because that's where a lot of people are moving. And they're not building in the Midwest and the Rust Belt because there just isn't a lot of job growth or population growth in those areas.
All right, good stuff. Jeff Ostrowski from Bankrate. I appreciate you helping us out on the James Show.
All right, thanks a lot.
Coming up next, a big serious story. Ukraine and Russia having peace talks. Will the India-Pakistan peace talks hold? Are we done fighting in Gaza? Find out next on all these important foreign policy issues from David Hamilton of America's Future Series next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. You're listening to News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. My next guest is going to get you all caught up on foreign affairs because there is a lot going on outside the borders. It's David Hamilton back on from America's Future Series. Welcome back, David.
Hello, sir.
Before we get into the news, let's talk about the event that you had last week. It was on my birthday, but I didn't get a cake. Very disappointing. But what a great event.
Yeah, it was great that it was on your birthday. It was Flo Groberg's birthday, and he had a baby that night, and so did Brandon Gill.
Brandon Gill had a baby?
I
know it's his wife. Don't say that.
First. Yeah, I'm teasing. But yeah, no, so they both did. Yeah.
David Hamilton's got jokes today. And I had never been to that ranch. What was that, the Circle J?
T Ranch?
Yeah, Circle T
Ranch, yeah.
What an amazing setup.
Hillwood thing. Yeah, it's a beautiful place, yeah.
And did you tell me Pete Sessions was going to be there? Because if you did, I didn't remember. I was kind of shocked that he was the headliner.
No, he was there, longtime friend and supporter of the America's Future Series. And, and we had a good group there, Secretary of the Navy, all kinds of good folks.
Yeah, so people who aren't up on it, Pete Sessions, House of Representatives. When are you having the next event, David?
Let's see, D.C., we're working with the Space Force. We have the head of the Space Force and others. Hopefully we're going to honor Buzz Aldrin that evening. And we have our Space Innovation Summit at Amazon's World Headquarters. Then we'll be back here. That's July 29th. September 30th, we're here at the Frontiers of Fright Museum.
Oh, yeah.
And we are honoring Admiral McCraven. General Petraeus is hosting that. Some of the same guys, the Ross Perot's and Darcy Anderson's and others. We're honoring Bob Pragada of Jacob with our 5-star award for supporting our military. And we have a whole bunch of military and defense leaders coming for our joint domain summit that day. So we've got a couple different events coming. Now they're all under the umbrella of the University of North Texas under the National Security Economic Strategy Initiative. So we're joint forces, and I now work for the university.
Okay. I got to hear a presentation from the guy who started the Space Force. That was pretty cool. And the other thing I liked about your event is when I was just walking around meeting people, there's a lot of defense contractors and supply chain people in there. And I was kind of jokingly asking around, hey, you know where I can get a missile? And there were like 4 or 5 people that were like, yeah, I can get you a missile.
Yeah, well, the head of aeronautics for Lockheed Martin was there. Yes, sir. He can hook you up.
All right. Now let's get into some of the news, and I'll let you know about these events as they get closer because that was a fun one, and I'm definitely going to go to ones that are within driving distance, David. But right now, Ukraine and Russia, are they making a deal to end their war? Are these peace talks still going on?
Well, let's have perspective. I mean, this war is 11 years old. It started in 2014. So Yanukovych, I can never say his name.
Yanukovych.
Prime Minister. Thank you. See? Yeah. He was very pro-Russia. The Rebellion of Dignity kicked him out, and that caused the pro-Russian faction in Ukraine to sort of rise up and end up with the sort of annexation of Crimea. So this has been going on for a really long time, and the idea that this would be easy and not perhaps have some fits and starts is kind of silly. So we don't know, but if we're not talking about it, if they don't get together in Istanbul and we try to hash this out, our only other alternative is to continue this bloody, bloody war. So I'm really proud of Zelensky for, despite Putin not thinking he would show up, he said yes. And we got to get them in a room together, the two leaders, to have a shot in blank of actually coming up with a solution to this. So I'm hopeful. It doesn't mean we're not going to be a little skeptical. Doesn't mean we're not going to trust and verify? How about don't trust and verify? But we have to do this, and I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to come to an end, a reasonable negotiation to the end and the stopping of the slaughter.
Well, if we pull out and withdraw our support, what is Russia's incentive to not continue this until they get everything they want?
So, behind closed doors, behind the scenes, I don't think Russia thinks that we're going to completely bail on Ukraine. We haven't done it yet. We're still sending them money and trying to support them. And we're trying to create hopefully we're trying to create a situation where it's better for Russia to be friendly, to be on our side, to do trade with us, sell oil and gas, get back in with the European community, et cetera, and break them away from China. So we ultimately have to turn Russia away, instead of being an enemy, but to being an ally, because our mutual ally, the only real existential threat to the United States and to Europe, is China. And this is hopefully a step in that long-term direction. And it is in nobody's interest, including the Russians, for them to not be doing business with the people with the money and the goods and the needs and their biggest customers, which is Europe and the United States.
So let's talk about the other hot spot, India, Pakistan. You know, these two neighbors hadn't been getting along very good, just historically speaking. There's a little bit of a flare up. Now we're told there's a ceasefire. Will it hold?
I doubt it. I think there will probably be a little flare up, and then it'll hold again, and then ultimately, because this is the way these things go, they ping pong a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a flare up, somebody escalates something. But long term, again, it's in everyone's interest for them to have an agreement, and they both have nukes. So at the end of the day, they really have to come to an agreement.
All right, that's just a scary situation because both of these guys have nukes.
And they both don't like each other and haven't for centuries. So these are difficult, challenging times. These are difficult situations. But again, if there's no alternative to war, if there's no opportunity for peace and for collaboration and trade seems to be the single biggest medicine to solve these kinds of issues and to soothe these headaches. If we can find ways to do business together, we tend to not kill our best clients.
Yes, nothing brings countries together like good old-fashioned capitalism. God bless them. The profit motive is stronger than any army. David Hamilton, can you stick with me for another segment? I know you're a busy guy, but I still have questions about Gaza, China, a few other foreign affairs.
Sure thing.
All right, we're talking with David Hamilton from America's Future Series. If you have any questions, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227, or you can leave a message over here on social media, and I'll pass it along to David Hamilton when we continue on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. We continue with David Hamilton from America's Future Series on foreign policy questions here. And the biggest one that affects everyone is the deal with China. Now, markets are booming, and that's great. But are we really going to get a deal with China where they will open up their markets to some of our industries? Because that would be huge for our economy.
Well, if we get any movement at all, it'll be good. I mean, we've had 10, 20 years of unfair trade practices, and not just tariffs, but non-trade barriers, things like currency manipulation, quality standards that were unfair, subsidies, and things like that. And so if we can get closer to a level playing field, that will be great. But this one's more complicated because we're also in this deal working on fentanyl, because they have been trying to undermine us with fentanyl. They're even shipping those machines that make the fentanyl to Mexico and other countries, foregoing their own profits simply to flood our market with as much fentanyl as they can, because they know that hurts us. So there are a host of complicated issues that it's going to take 90 days or so to work on. So this sort of pause where we don't hurt each other as much on trade, on tariffs is good. It gives us a time to sort of work on some of these other issues. So there are lots of issues that make this one a little more complicated, but I do think ultimately by putting some pressure on them, they're coming to the table, and their economy is suffering, and the opportunity is ripe, the situation is ripe for us to actually come to a meaningful agreement.
Didn't we already do this with China? The West had the opium war with China, and so this is sort of like a reverse opium war. They're flooding the opiates on us.
Yeah, the British actually famous for about 100 or so years ago. It's called the Opium War, and the Chinese refer to that period of time since then as the century of humiliation. That's their term for it. They are very angry at the West. They feel they've been denigrated, unloved, and dismissed. And they would like to see their culture, their country, everything about their country. They want to be the strongest military, political, and economic powers in the world. And they work at that every day. And you've probably heard me say that I think of them as Pinky in the brain. They wake up every night thinking about how are they going to take over the world. And they work that those projects diligently, very strategically. We have to be aware of that because of this long history, and we have to find a way to work together better. We're never going to make China America. They're never going to be truly Western, thinking that would happen. But back to this earlier discussion, if we can find ways to benefit each other and we stand firm, we can't let them run roughshod over us. We can come to an accommodation where it would at least have closer to a level playing field.
So hopefully this new opium war turns out a little more or ends a little more cleanly than the last one. But the problem with China is they've made trade deals before, and they have not a very good record of sticking to them. But how do you enforce it?
We have to enforce it. We didn't have a very good track record of enforcing it the last time we negotiated one like this. We did not hold them accountable. And holding people accountable and pushing back can make people uncomfortable. But the alternative is simply to lose. So right. I'm encouraged by the fact that we are pushing back and we're trying to hold them accountable. If we could hold them accountable to the original standards we had about 6 years ago, we'd be in a lot better shape. So getting back to that, and then it is an ongoing battle, having discipline, et cetera, and the resolve to hold our trading partners, especially those that don't like us very much, accountable. It's not easy, but it must be done.
So let's move over to the Middle East. We have the final American hostage back from Gaza. How many hostages are left? Do we know?
Now, there are several there in Gaza, and that is why the pressure is still on, and that's why the Israelis just bombed a hospital, which, of course, was being used as a center for Hamas, and that exposed a tunnel. So you may have seen that story.
I did not.
Yeah, so and it's unfortunate the Israelis have to prove to people that they're not just blowing up hospitals because they like to. Right. So there seems to be this notion that the Israelis like to randomly go around and blow up hospitals.
Oh, yeah. It's just a genocide. David, they're trying to wipe them out.
Yeah. So, the Hamas and its leaders do, in fact, use these facilities, et cetera, and their human shields, their martyrs, to protect them. And it's unfortunate. And I think the Israelis are doing as good a job as they can. They're not always perfect, but they are trying to weed out the Hamas leaders. And of course, as I've said before on your show, this real answer is to let the civilians out through the southern border, and the Egyptians have to be held accountable, and the rest of the Middle East has to be held accountable for providing another alternative, a place for those refugees to go, which they're not doing. Okay, so it's going to take a village to make that happen, and there's been a certain resolve and pressure from Iran and others to not, because they actually want to martyr as many of their own people as they can.
All right, so where do we find your work outside of WBAP now? You know, you have a merger going on with America's Future Series and UNT. Is it the same website, or do y'all have a new name for this stuff?
So we do have our old website, the America's Future Series website, which shows some of our events, which are being transitioned to a new website under the National Security and Economic Strategy Initiative. It will eventually be a center in the school with a certificate program, education program. I'm teaching the first course in the fall. We'll have an executive ed program and a research institute or research and policy council. So all of that's being built. I'm very proud of the university because in very order and under 90 days, it has stood this center up at the beginnings of the center. We've had this first event, and we have these 3 other events that we're hosting over the course of the year. So they'll be able to find us very soon on the UNT website. That they can reach us now currently through America's Future Series.
All right, well, onward and upward, David Hamilton. Good to see you doing well, sir.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it.
All right, and I'll let you know about his next event. If you're looking for a guy who can get you a missile, that's the place to go. All right, coming up next, there's a terrible hobby that some people have of street racing, and it just killed another one of your neighbors yesterday. What do we do about this? How do we stop this deadly hobby? I'll throw up some ideas, but I don't think I have all the answers. If you can help me out, that would be nice. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Deadly Street Racing next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back. It's the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker, and we've lost another one of your neighbors. One of your neighbors died this week to street racing. Two guys decided that they were going to take off and see who's the fastest, and one guy accidentally veered into oncoming traffic, hit a guy in a pickup truck. The guy in the pickup truck dies. The driver is in stable condition. He had to be taken to the hospital, but he's going to live. The other driver just drove off into the night, never to be heard from again. What a terrible, terrible hobby these people have. What awful human beings think this is cool. I realize this is probably younger, and it's almost certainly guys. Girls aren't this stupid. Only guys are this just completely reckless, especially with their own lives. Some of this, look, I know cars are cool, and I part of me gets it. It's the adrenaline rush. You got adrenaline junkies. It's, how you get your thrills. It takes a boring day and makes it exciting. You've done something death-defying. Of course, that's going to get your adrenaline running. But it also kills people. And it also kills innocent people who are involuntary third parties to your terrible decisions. I wouldn't care so much if there were street drag races and these people were only killing themselves. Like if he had veered off the road and hit a tree and killed himself, it would still be a tragedy, but not like this, not as bad as this. And I don't know what the solution is for it. We already charge them with, probably involuntary manslaughter or vehicular manslaughter. Do you up the charges on it? Would that really make them stop? I'm not sure if that would work. All I can think to do is maybe can we try and steer these adrenaline junkies into some sort of activity that doesn't kill other people? Like go skydive. That way if something goes wrong, you just splat on the ground and, worst thing that happens is someone has to come pick you up with a spatula, but at least no one else dies. You could ride an angry bull. That's what we do out in Bug Tussle. If you want to have a thrill, go get on the back of an angry animal that weighs 1,800 pounds. Look, if you're a city kid, you can get your excitement in other ways. You can go walk through Oak Cliff in a jacket made from $100 bills. Why don't you try that? If you need adrenaline so bad. And that's one of the nice parts about motorcycle riders. Sometimes I'll gripe about motorcycle guys, especially when they have the really loud motorcycle that everyone on the block can hear and you're ruining people's lunch. Those guys are jerks, whatever. But for the rest of you guys, what an exceptional level of danger you are choosing for your transportation options. In fact, I had a friend who died from a motorcycle crash last year. And it was almost like, well, at least he didn't hurt anybody else. Unlike these jerks who thinks, oh, this will be fun. I'll show him, see how fast my car is. Did you just watch Fast and Furious and you thought that was a documentary? You think that's cool? You think you're Vin Diesel? And how did Paul Walker die? So yeah, riding motorcycles is exceptionally dangerous, but at least you're only hurting yourself. And I don't have the answer for this. Anybody got some help for me? Because I don't know how you solve this. 800-288-9227. And don't call in and say, make it illegaler. It's already illegal. You can't, there's got to be a better solution than that. 800-288-9227. This is Charles in Bug Tussle. You're on WBAP. What do you think, Charles?
Hey, James. Aside from the criminal charges, reckless endangerment, all of those things, if these guys get out there and race and they murder someone, or let's just say they kill someone on accident, man, after all of the criminal charges, after they serve their time, 10-year minimum, no driver's license. Now, I know a lot of criminals couldn't care less if they have a driver's license or not.
Right.
But a lot of people who live in Texas especially, man, you can't get from point A to point B if you don't have a driver's license.
Oh, yeah, you can. Illegal immigrants do it all day, every day.
Yeah, okay. That's the key word, illegal.
Yes.
All right, you've already got these guys who have been accused of a crime, or they've been, they've done some jail time, and then they get out, 10-year minimum, no driver's license. They get caught again, straight back to jail for the reason they were there the first time. The consequences have to outweigh the reward, and they have to be stiff. And if people don't come up with some kind of penalty that makes these people think twice before they punch it and kill someone, then nothing is ever going to change.
Well, let me explain myself a little bit better on why I think making something illegaler in this situation isn't going to work. Because, you know, they're like, they wouldn't risk going to jail for 10 years or they wouldn't risk losing their license for 10 years. Bro, they're risking their life when they do this. You think a 10-year driver's license suspension is going to deter someone over and above losing their own life?
Yes.
Okay.
Because a lot of these people do not think anything. Look, man, when I was young, when I was in my 20s, I knew everything. Nothing was going to happen to me. Everything was going to be fine. All of a sudden, something bad happens and the consequences get up, man, you're going to think again. And if you don't think again, then hell, man, firing squad. Firing squad time. You know, I mean, if they're just going to keep getting out there and causing problems, then they're the problem. Remove the problem. Take the problem out of the equation.
Okay. Firing squad, not just put them in prison for life for 20 years.
Why waste the money?
Okay. Well, that's Charles in Bug Tussle. Are you really from Bug Tussle or are you just pulling my leg?
No, brother, I'm from north of Bug Tussle. I'm even deeper Bug Tussle than you are.
What are you, like Mineola or something?
You nailed it.
Oh, did I? There's not a whole lot of places north of Bug Tussle. It's a pretty small area. Well, that's funny. One more call on this. Lee in Fort Worth, what's your solution for street racing?
Hey, gentlemen, thanks for taking my call. Here's my issue. I drive from Dallas to Fort Worth every day, commute back and forth, morning and evening. Motorcyclists is my big thing. They want you to give them the road. They want you to give them respect, and I have no problem with that. There's 90% of them that deserve what they get. You know, they get what they deserve. I give them the road, and I'm courteous to them. But then there's the 10% that cut up between your cars when you're stopped at a light and backed up traffic, and they're coming up beside your car and almost take off your mirror.
Yep.
And talk about that. And we talk about the motorcyclist that was speeding the other day or this past week and killed a 10-year-old kid. Come on. And of course he died too. I'm not.
How do you stop it though? Real quick, in 30 seconds, how do you stop it?
Police need to do their job and let's police our areas. Let's turn the police loose and let them do their job. Quit restricting them.
Okay. All right.
I know they're not out there. They can't be everywhere. We understand.
No,
that.
Lee, you sound great over in Fort Worth. I'm just out of time. So thank you very much, sir. Get ready for Main Street Fest, a timeless Texas tradition presented by the Bank of the West, May 16th through 18th in Grapevine. That's this weekend. 3 days of nonstop fun headlined by the incredible Neil McCoy. He's a great guy. And if you want free tickets to go see Neil McCoy at Main Street Fest in Grapevine, it's one of the contests we have going on. Text the word street to 800-288-9227. If you already have us in your phone, it's the same phone number you call in on. Text street to 800-288-9227. Also, I got like 30 requests for the Rhino list in the Texas State Legislature, Texas State House of Representatives. If you haven't got the list yet, I'll get it to you. It has a list of all the Republicans you sit down there that turncoat and vote with the Democrats on all these important issues, and a map to see if you live in their district. So just send me an email, james@wbap.com, or a Facebook message. Either way you get to me, I'll get you the link. It's kind of important stuff. All right, stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP.